Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Is XRP now doomed in Mexico? Because, look, we've been dealing with enough crap from the SEC in the United States. I mean, frankly, XRP as a bridge currency, not a thing anymore. Not in corridors that touch the United States. The liquidity has dried up. It's pretty much non-existent, and it is 100% non-existent with Ripple exchange partners like Bitstamp and Bittrex. Is just gone. There is no on-demand liquidity, and actually recently found that out. Finally, it was because Ripple hadn't publicly talked about it until their legal team covered it in some legal filings that are public. So that's the reason that we even know about that. And I suspected that was the case anyway, but it was just recently the first time we found out about that. And so, until that is straightened out, there's no chance that we were going to see, an uptick in terms of on-demand liquidity adoption with any endpoint touching the United States. And now there's this headline. Mexico says cryptocurrencies are not money, warns of risks. And so XRP is specifically cited in this article and warns that it's effectively not to be touched. Though I will say that at this point I'm not particularly alarmed, because it does seem to me that this is a lot of posturing, and I think it's a result of internal politics, and I'll be highlighting that in this video. So look, plenty to talk about, but before we go any further, I do want to be clear, I don't have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. And so where did this all stem from? Well, given that it does seem to be a lot of scare tactic posturing type of stuff, I need to share with you that this is where it comes from. Here's a headline from the other day from Crypto Newsflash. This is covered widely within crypto media, but here's the headline in this one. Mexico's third wealthiest man reveals plan to open first Bitcoin bank in the region. And so I remember reading this and I thought it was cool news. Now, I read so many articles, I can't remember for sure if I've already mentioned this on my channel. I don't think that I did. There's been a lot of stuff having to do with prominent investors and all sorts of interesting price action. I don't think I got to this one, but now it's highly relevant because it impacts XRP and the long-term viability of on-demand liquidity within that corridor. So, interesting stuff. So you need to be aware of this. Let me just quickly set the table here. But Bitcoin adoption is still gaining momentum among institutional investors as it continues to prove to be the best way to preserve wealth for generations. Ricardo Salinas Pliego, I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right. There's definitely not an R in there though. But anyway, he's the third wealthiest man in Mexico, recently reaffirmed his interest in the digital asset, claiming all fiat currencies are fraud. He further revealed that he plans to hold Bitcoin for the next 30 years. And so actually, here's a tweet from Anthony Pompliano, and I'm not going to play, he had a video clip here I'm not going to play, but Pomp wrote, here is a video of Mexico's third wealthiest man explaining why he believes all fiat currencies are a fraud, and he wants to hold Bitcoin over the next 30 years. Now, I think that the vast majority of us have legitimate gripes about the way that the United States dollar and other fiat currencies are abused, and the way that it's just printed into oblivion, which basically is stealing wealth, in particular from lower class individuals. That is what it is. I mean, you have to understand, when you're talking about printing money, it's tantamount to a tax. They don't call it a tax, but it's taking purchasing power away from those that are holding cash. And so who's cash heavy? Not the rich people. The rich people only have a small amount in liquid cash at any given moment. And so you can think what the implications are of all of this. And so whether you want to call it a fraud or not, there are legitimate concerns, and that was brought up here. And so that whole message, I've always been on board with that. I'm just not a down with the banks. I'm not a down with the government type of guy. I'm just not. I think you need to work with banks and with the government if you're going to be an adult. Otherwise, you're not going to get adoption. And that's why I've always been a fan of Ripple's general approach, and they do their best to operate within the existing legal framework to the extent that's even a thing in the United States. And in crypto, I know, but if it's still, I've appreciated their efforts and the fact that Ripple's so damn transparent in the way that they operate here. And so, anyway, this very wealthy man, third wealthiest man in Mexico, Pliego, in a follow-up tweet, doubled down his interest, revealing he has plans to make his bank the first in Mexico to accept Bitcoin. And here's a quote. Sure, I recommend the use of Bitcoin, and I and my bank are working to be the first bank in Mexico to accept Bitcoin. If you need more details and information, follow me on my Twitter account. And so I remember thinking upon reading that initially, oh, well, that's cool. We'll see if something comes of that. And I was thinking instantly, too, it's so neat that XRP is already being utilized as a bridge currency in Mexico, or at least it was from the United States to Mexico before all this nonsense with the SEC. And it was truly impressive because Ripple's partner Bitso, that's the cryptocurrency exchange in Mexico, Bitso, they had been all about this technology. They've become a very successful firm, in fact. Here's a headline from Forbes, May 5th of this year. Mexican Bitcoin exchange Bitso raises $250 million, becomes Latin America's first crypto unicorn. And it's so fascinating because Bitso, when Ripple started working with them initially, it was like 4 guys in someone's mother's basement running a cryptocurrency exchange in Mexico. And that was it was either like 2014, maybe 2015. But they were doing things that the legacy financial system couldn't do in terms of moving money very quickly at almost no cost, thanks to the advent of cryptocurrencies, the adoption of that. And Ripple ended up partnering with them, and now they've just become massively, wildly successful here. And their CEO, his name is Daniel Vogel, that's him on the screen there right now. He's spoken about how, he's spoken out against the nonsense, actually, of what has occurred with the SEC going after Ripple, and he has cited a number of countries, including Mexico, which is interesting. I mean, he cited that there's actually is regulatory clarity for crypto assets in Mexico. And so that is interesting given what we're seeing now in this new article. Again, Mexico says cryptocurrencies are not money, warns of risk. So check this out. I think, again, XRP is specifically cited here alongside Bitcoin and Ethereum. Mexican financial authorities on Monday said that crypto assets are not legal tender in Mexico and are not considered currencies under current laws, warning that financial institutions that operate with them are subject to sanctions. Now, let me already pause right there. This is why I think some of even just that is posturing. Nobody was saying that a cryptocurrency, XRP or otherwise, needed to be considered legal tender within the country. Nobody was saying that, and nobody was saying it has to be actually considered a technical currency necessarily. So already right there, it's almost like they're putting up a straw man, as if somebody's claiming that this is some sort of legal tender recognized within Mexico, but nobody's even making that claim, right? And so already right there, I was just like, okay. And it does kind of go downhill from there, unfortunately. The joint statement by the Bank of Mexico, Finance Ministry, and banking regulator comes after Mexican billionaire Ricardo Salinas Pliego on Sunday said his banking business, Banco Azteca, may begin using Bitcoin, which would make it the country's first bank to start accepting the cryptocurrency. Earlier this month, El Salvador made a dramatic move to make Bitcoin a legal tender, a world first. And here's a quote. The financial authorities reiterate their warnings on the risks inherent in the use of so-called virtual assets as a means of exchange, as a store of value, or as another form of investment, the statement said. So that caught my attention too, because they weren't talking just as a currency, even though, like I already said, who's claiming that this is legal tender? Nobody's claiming XRP is legal tender in Mexico, but they did state here. They're reiterating the warnings on the risks inherent in the use of so-called virtual assets as a means of exchange. Well, XRP is being used as a means of exchange. It's a bridge currency. That's its primary utility at this point. I think arguably the case. Its primary purpose at this point. And so and then they cite here's another quote. The country's financial institutions are not authorized to carry out and offer to the public operations with virtual assets such as Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, and others in order to maintain a healthy distance between them and the financial system. And so that's why seeing this and then comparing it to Daniel's Bitso CEO's comments about how there is clarity, there's sufficient regulatory clarity in Mexico for them to conduct business. Seeing this, I was like, okay, what in the ever-loving hell is going on here? And here was one of the neatest things about XRP, I've always thought, is that it works in the plumbing. It works in the background as a bridge currency. And so banks and remittance firms, they don't have to actually hold XRP. That's a primary selling point. It's just used in between. And so all of the KYC and AML legal requirements for transactions, like those are still in place. Like none of that has changed whatsoever. Right. And so what is actually going on? Well, they break it down further. And this is why, again, I'm not convinced that this is going to actually long-term ruin anything. It seems like it's probably going to be posturing. But nations that outright like ban crypto and stuff like that, it's to their own detriment. And I don't see that happening over the long haul. And so Mexican financial institutions must also avoid transmitting to their clients the risks associated with cryptocurrency operations, the statement said, adding that the use of so-called stablecoins, a form of cryptocurrency usually pegged to a traditional currency, was not permitted under current Mexican law. It's starting to sound like the nonsense in the United States now. Finance Minister Arturo Herrera said at a news conference that under current rules, cryptocurrencies are prohibited from being used in the Mexican financial system, underscoring that the prohibition will likely not change in the near term. And so that caught my attention too. I'm like, well, to what do you mean by used within the financial system? Because it really depends on the definition of that, because right now we're just talking about XRP being used as a bridge in between two different countries. So is a bridge where it's not specific just to one side, is that something that you're citing here? And to this point, that seems to have not been the case, because there had been no grief over XRP being used as a bridge currency via on-demand liquidity here. So I don't know. I mean, it would be pure nonsense if that were proven to be a problem. It's like, why are you allowing anybody to even trade it in Mexico then? And so anyway, then they continue. Cryptocurrencies tend to be volatile and speculative assets. While they can be traded, they do not serve the same function as money, since their acceptance as a means of payment is limited, and they are not a good reserve or value reference, said the statement. The stern warning was seen as aimed at halting, this is where you get to the meat of it, halting Salinas Pliego, an ally of President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador's Morena party. The magnate had previously backed a Morena bill that would have forced the Bank of Mexico to buy up foreign cash in a bid to help migrants and tourists repatriate U.S. dollars. And so the bill, seen largely benefiting Azteca, one of the country's leading remittance processors, was eventually overhauled, but not before it shook confidence in the country's financial system, as authorities said it could compel the central bank to add laundered drug money to its reserves. And so, that's where it's actually coming from. They seem to not like Ricardo here. And so that means all crypto bad all of a sudden. Come on. What the ever-loving hell? That is stupid. STOOPID. Stupid butts. We are forced to deal with this, aren't we all? Again, look, it's a real threat technically, but we'll see. If this thing starts to get legs, I'll talk about this again. Or if it's resolved, I'll talk about it again too. But I have a hard time believing that any rational country on the planet would want to destroy the utility that is to be had with a decentralized cryptocurrency with an open market price being used as a bridge currency, because it helps people within their country for sure. So there we are. That's what we're working with. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.